of it. But then as I'm driving, I'm thinking, why didn't they just tell me that?
Yeah.
So I called Dan, my husband, and I said, something's up. Come there, because they won't tell me. So as soon as I walked in, the security guard, I told him who I was, and then they put me in this little room with a box of tissues, an empty room with a box of tissues.
And you don't know what's going on.
And I still don't know what's going on. And I'm thinking, what's going on?
And Dan's with you?
No, Dan's not with me yet. He's on his way.
Okay.
So I get in the room and I'm thinking, what's this about? But never, ever does it cross my mind of what really is actually happening.
I want to welcome Julie Ravago to the studio. I'm very humbled to have you here today with me.
I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
We've been friends for 7-8 years at least.
Yes, yeah.
And,
yeah.
So Julie, we met on very strange circumstances. Actually, kind of indirectly, we met and then didn't meet and then met again.
We're business on, we're online or, within our companies.
Yes.
And then I met you in person.
Yeah. So when we met, the one time at your location, I think that was kind of a surprise.
I would say
it was surprising to me too, just as much as it was for you.
Yeah. So do you want to kind of?
Yeah, I'll let you explain how we met. So I went to go. I'll start it. So I went to go and meet a mutual friend of ours.
Yep.
And go take a look at your warehouse.
Yep.
And she was late.
Yes, as usual, right?
As usual.
Yeah. So I'm just at work, minding my own business. I get a call from a colleague that says, "Hey, I'm running late. I'm in traffic. Amar's coming in. He's got to do some stuff. He's got to take some measurements and things like that. Can you please let him in?"
Yeah.
So I'm like, sure, no problem. Here comes Amar, nice guy, friendly.
Trying to wear my shirt and tie.
Trying to be professional. And he comes in and I'm walking him through the warehouse. And before he even said anything, there was like a physical presence. There was tingling. And I couldn't figure out what it was.
It was like a vibration, right? So you're feeling like when your hair stands up on your arms.
Yes.
That's the only way to describe it.
It's like almost like electricity.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, well, I haven't had that much coffee. This is not coffee happening. And then it was weird because you were kind of hesitating because you didn't know me.
Yeah, and that was weird. Like, should I say something? Should I say something?
Yeah, you were kind of like,
feeling.
Yeah, and then I can't remember how it came out or how you said it. But I was absolutely floored.
It was a feeling of someone trying to communicate.
Yeah. And
it was magical for me because I was really having this voice pounding in my head saying, I'm sorry for the way that you saw me.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling the tingles right now.
Yeah, I think he followed us in.
Yeah. So you have been through something very traumatic.
Yep, that's a very good word for it.
Yeah, it's something that I have a very soft spot in my heart for anybody who goes through this.
Yeah.
And this is obviously loss.
Yep.
Of a child.
Yes.
Who was he?
He was my son, Matthew. 25 years old.
How was he?
Just to kind of go back a little bit, my son had struggled with learning disabilities, mental issues. He was bipolar. And we tried to it's hard to get those two things straightened out. Yeah. Now he could build anything. So the learning disabilities were just like writing down on paper, but his mind was brilliant. His first Crocodile Dundee Hunter car, he had put a stereo in it. And my neighbors, he was blasting the stereo on a little remote control car. He was brilliant. He had a brilliant mind. So we struggled with that, in his early teens. We're trying to get his medications right, things like that. And then he got involved in drugs. And so for a period of about 7 years, I watched him struggle. I mean, we did everything we could, in and out, rehabs, you name it. We did everything we could. And the last 6 months with us, he was with me and my husband, and he was doing great. He was working. He was going to school. He was positive, So we're very glad we got the last 6 months because we really got to know who he was. But we did also understand some struggles. 7 years, lots of praying and praying to get through it. Watching somebody struggle, or even watching anybody that's sick. It's a sickness. Is hard.
I mean, obviously, there's so much love for a child because I have my kids and I love them. And when they get a little scratch on their finger, I'm literally upset that something's happened. So there's so much love that that people don't realize that you love your kid, good or bad, right or wrong. You love them.
Yes. So and that doesn't change.
Never.
It never goes away. Never. So then, kind of like fast forward. So he's doing well. I get the phone call. They didn't tell me anything, just come. I go.
How was your life? How was your life before? Like, where were you mind frame wise, working wise? Like, are you working normal?
9 to 5. I'm purchasing manager.
Getting your coffees. I'm doing normal stuff. Going to work, friends. Yeah.
Everything seemed, pretty normal. Nothing, I wasn't living in a mansion or doing anything extraordinary, but I was just a regular girl from the valley, just making her way through life, happy, But it's, so then you get the call, and they don't tell you anything. They just say, just come here. So
this is who called you?
The hospital. I had just started a new job. I was 30 days into a new purchasing manager position.
Got it.
And they called and asked me who I was and if I was his mother and to come. Well, we had some food poisoning. We had eaten something like a couple days before, and a couple of us in the house got sick. So I thought, oh gosh, it's that. Yeah. Not thinking anything of it. But then as I'm driving, I'm thinking, why didn't they just tell me that? Yeah. So I called Dan, my husband, and I said, something's up. Come there, because they won't tell me. So as soon as I walked in, the security guard, I told him who I was, and then they put me in this little room with a box of tissues, an empty room with a box of tissues.
And you don't know what's going on.
And I still don't know what's going on. And I'm thinking, what's going on?
And Dan's with you?
No, Dan's not with me yet. He's on his way.
Okay.
So I get in the room, and I'm thinking, what's this about? Never, ever does it cross my mind of what really is actually happening. Yeah. So I get there, and then there's and to this day, I can't even tell you what their faces look like. There was probably about 6 people. One was a doctor, one was a social worker, and then there were some others. But to this day, I couldn't tell you. If you said for $1 million, can you tell me, describe what these people look like? I have no idea. So they come in, and they explain to me that he was found unresponsive in his car. The paramedics brought him in, and he did not survive, Did I want to go see him? So I immediately called him.
Now, is there a disbelief now they've just told you this? Now, are you believing that this is real because this is kind of unreal?
Well, it's funny. You kind of, in the back of your mind, that you would hate to get that call, right? But there's no way. It's the good thing, or in my instance, and I don't know if its grief is different with everybody, but you can't wrap your head around it. So I call my husband, and he's like at this point running in, from the parking lot. He comes in, and because I said I don't want to go in without him. Yeah. So we go in, and even though you're looking at it, there he is, he's gone. Yeah. There's no way that your mind will let you. It's not like the movies, like in the movies where they're like, oh. Yeah. To me, it was just disbelief.
Disbelief, that's right.
And I don't know. I mean, some people do that, or I guess it was just the mind. In my case, the mind kind of protects you a little bit. And so there's there's this period of time like where you go through the motions, you make the arrangements, the funeral.
Just don't know what's happening, right?
I kind of was. I mean, I remember it, and I remember, my sisters really stepped up and kind of helped me. Dan helped me. A lot of people kind of picked me up when but it was just kind of numb, very numb.
You just go through it, and it was similar with mine where I didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of in disbelief. I couldn't even think if I was real. I was very confused at how things were happening. And the funeral arrangements also, I couldn't, I just was doing it mindlessly. And they go, oh, what stone, what this, what that, whatever they were saying to me. And I just, yeah, that's fine. Just whatever it is, let's just do this.
Yeah.
It really does. That numbness is very hard to explain.
Yeah.
But you're literally like an empty vessel just moving.
Absolutely. That's a really good way to put it. You're walking around, but you're not really there, and I do think it's some sort of a self-preservation thing that your brain or your mind does, because you have to start to absorb it little by little. Yeah. And so for me, that's how it kind of happened for me. I went through, you go through that whole, it was like a 3-week thing where, the preparation and then the funeral and then the going back to work, right? So there's this, going back to work, right? Like, how do I focus on this now? Yeah. And so I don't think I really got the full gist of it. I really started to absorb it until my son died in April. Yeah. And December is when I started to kind of unravel a little bit.
You mean unravel as in you were coming to get your senses back?
Unraveling as in
things were getting worse.
I felt at this point, I was just split wide open, every nerve ending, exposed, fully in, where it really went. He's gone. Yeah. This is really, really bad for me. So it was weird. It was like I was numb. Everybody's like, oh, you're so strong, you're doing so good. And I'm thinking, I don't feel anything. Yeah. I'm just kind of, And
I think that people don't really know what to say, because they start saying he's in heaven, he's here, or she's there and she's here. And I kept hearing all these things that people kept telling me. And I go, okay, well, how do you know? And I had the same 3 religious people telling me the same thing. He's in heaven, he's here, he's around you. I was hearing multiple different things from multiple people. And no one has the answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's okay, people couldn't relate to it.
Yeah. So the best thing that happened was I got a call from the job that I had just left, that I had been there for a long time, and they helped me to come back. They wanted me to come back, and they said I could work from the California location. So it was perfect for me because it was a job that I had already done, and I could do it with my eyes closed, right? Yeah. And I thought this is good. And what I did is I jumped into it, and I really and I don't know how healthy that is, but it worked for me. My thing is fake it till you make it. If that's what works for you and gets you through it, dive into work if you can. If you don't have a job, just make sure you get up. Get up and make yourself useful. Even if it's just to go out and water a plant. Yeah. Make sure you get up and show up. Yeah. I have a friend that used to always say, fake it till you make it. Yeah. And so you do. And then it just gets different. It doesn't ever stop hurting, but it changes, right? Yes. It changes your, it hurts differently.
It never goes away.
Right.
It's always inside you, and you're just reacting to it very differently in the world, where you're kind of putting it into a box in your heart, and you're just putting it there where you just shut it away.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about it, but you can't keep talking about it, because now you're more by yourself. You really start secluding yourself. You start becoming alone.
Yeah.
And while you're having this thing around you of doing your job and just continuing with what you're doing, right?
Right. So kind of in the middle of all of this process of getting your bearings and feeling everything, allowing yourself to feel all of it. So going back to the day that he passed, I had to call his father. His father and his new wife came, Matthew's dad. That was hard to make that phone call. Hey, by the way, right? Like, how do you say that? So we waited. They're from Orange County, so they came up. We stayed. You know, we did the priest came. We had a priest come and do that, and that's just my roots. So that's what I know. Yes. So that's what I had. So then they followed us back to the house, and so after all of that was done, and then they left, and it was just kind of like me and Dan and David was there. I went outside. I was still smoking at the time. So I went outside to smoke, and I'm just sitting there by myself. And all of a sudden I look over, and I'm just acutely aware of this white butterfly. And I'm thinking, why? I mean, it was just like I was drawn to it. And I remember getting the feeling, he's free. Yeah. He's free of this, right? I mean, I'm not going to cry. But he's free. And I was just, it was a profound thing, because I went, this is not me just reaching. This is him telling me I'm free.
So we get these signs. And it's funny because there was a butterfly on my doorstep when this happened to me. And it was the weirdest thing. So I get home and there's a butterfly literally sitting on the doormat. And I thought, is this butterfly dead? Like, why is it sitting on the doormat? And I couldn't believe that this butterfly was there. And I remember it was yellow and black. Yeah. And it was just sitting there. And I go, this is just the weirdest thing. Like, I'm seeing this butterfly just sitting there. And it's funny because it's very similar in how the butterfly, whenever I see them now, I have more of a respect for them. Yeah. But it really was like a sign. It was a sign for me.
And so that was like my first one, that first day. And I remember thinking, he's free. Then I started getting like little things after that, like waking up every day in the middle of the night, the same time. And I'm thinking, this happened like 4 or 5 times in a row, 4 or 5 days in a row. I know it's because I can't sleep because of everything that's gone on, but those were the first couple signs. Then seeing repeating numbers on my computer. And then, always looking at the time, and it's always these same numbers. Yeah. And so it's like getting your attention.
Yes.
But you're thinking to yourself, I am losing it, because you're going through this grief process, right? Through the whole thing.
Yeah, you're questioning yourself.
You're questioning your sanity.
You're thinking you're crazy, because I saw the numbers too. Yeah. And my numbers weren't 9/11. I kept seeing it. And that's obviously my date of birth. Yeah. But I see those numbers. When I say I'm on the right path or something's happening, I see those 9/11 showing me it's the right way.
Yeah, see, originally it was 111, the ones. And that was for months. And so I'm like, okay, it's some sort of awakening or something here. And then the 333s were always when I woke up. So those were signs. And then I remember saying, I said to Dan one time, I was sleeping, and I said, did you come in and sit down on my bed? And he said, no. And he said, but I've had that experience, like where that's happened. And so I think he was just trying to get my attention, or someone, to say, I'm still here. Yeah. I'm still here. So, but you still question, you're like, am I having a conversation in my mind about my own sanity here? Because is this real? But then you start connecting with other people that have had some of the same experiences. And then you kind of open your mind to it, and then you start, but you can start overthinking it as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, now you're looking for everything and anything, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I've been there too.
Like, for instance, I remember having the conversation with you that how come my son doesn't come to me in my dream? My sister had a dream, and she said he came to her and he was on the beach, and he said, I'm the best I can be here. Yes. And she said, and he looked really good, and he was at the beach. And I said, why doesn't he come to me? Why doesn't he come to me? And you had said, you're probably not emotionally ready yet for it.
That's right.
And then I remember it was maybe a year later, I had this dream. And in the dream, we're at this like aquarium where we're looking at like dolphins or whatever through a glass. And I know he's right with me. I know he's there with me, but I don't see him through the dream. Yeah. And so I wake up and I'm thinking, what am I supposed to make of this? What does that mean? completely overthinking it. And then I tell my friend who's actually an Aries, who's really, really, literal, and says, "Oh, you mean, so he's right next to you and you can't see him, but he's there." And I'm like, yeah. And that's what he's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
He's with you. You don't see him. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I completely overthought it.
Yes.
So you can overdo it.
And it's funny because even the dream thing, so even with me having the dreams of my wife passing, and having those dreams, I would get emotional. And I'm waking up bawling, saying that she was just here.
Yeah.
And then she wouldn't come back because I knew that I was getting emotional. Every time I had those dreams, I would be emotional and I would wake up bawling and say, oh my God. But now she wouldn't allow me to get close to her in the dreams. Like I would know she was there.
Yeah.
But she wasn't there, but I know in my mind she was there.
Yeah.
And that was really the same symptoms that I was having.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it does open your mind to things. And one of the things I did to help with the grief is I joined this group. It wasn't a physical group where we went to, meet, but it was an online group, and it was of parents that the children died the same way my son died. And I thought, this is something helpful, and I will be around people that understand. So the first couple months I was in it, but then I thought, wait a minute, this might not be good for me. Maybe I need to get off of it for a while. I did. And then I started to heal more, went back on, and I remember thinking, some of these people are really stuck in their grief. Like, it's not a place to stay. Yeah. You got to get out of it. Doesn't mean that you in any way have stopped grieving. It just means you're not stuck in that rut. Yes. There are people that my son died in 2015, that are still on there and they still can't get out of bed. Yeah.
It's hard and heavy.
Yeah.
I say to people, or even myself, of how I comforted myself was, if in the event something happened to me and I saw my loved ones or my kids crying for me on a regular basis, I would be more hurt seeing them in that pain.
Right.
Even if I was free. So,
right.
And that was something that has always stuck in my mind, that I want everybody else to be happy.
Yeah.
And everybody should be happy because we have our journeys together, right?
Right.
And I'm so grateful that I got to have my journey and I got to meet them. And like your son, you got to meet him and spend time with him and love him and hold him. And that's so magical.
Exactly. And that's what you have to do. Instead of, like, I know people that lost a parent or someone close, and they'll take the day off and they'll just say, oh, it's going to be a rough day for me. I'm just going to take that day off. Take the day off if you want, but celebrate them.
Yes.
Don't sit at home in bed. You got to go out. And one of the things that I do that's really helped me is when it's my son's birthday, every year I go and do something nice for someone else in his name, whether it be a donation, or one year I gave his car away, because that's celebrating him.
Yes.
And so that's been really, really helpful. But also too, just opening up and looking to know that they're there. They're very much there, and honoring them. Yes. But doing it, they want you to be happy.
Yes.
And they want you. I know that when my vibration's higher and I'm happier, because I get depressed too.
And we're humans, right?
We're humans, and it's heavy sometimes. Yeah. Like you said, you have your good days and bad days, and then trying to wrap your head around it. I remember maybe about 6 months into it, when I was kind of unraveling and things became very real for me. I remember being in the store. My son used to love cheese, so every time I went to the grocery store, I'd buy those big blocks of cheese. We used to call him the mouse because he used to eat cheese. And I remember going to the store, and I went to grab the cheese and realizing I don't need to buy that anymore, and completely like grabbing onto the cart thinking, ugh, and losing it. Yeah. And a nice lady came up and she's like, what's the matter? And I'm like, I don't have to buy cheese anymore. And she's looking at me like, this woman's lost her mind. But that's how you process it though. You little by little, you come to that realization, and then you just celebrate. Like, And remember you were saying earlier about friends, they don't know what to say.
They don't know what to say.
I let my friends off the hook, are the people that are very closest to me, my sisters. Talk about them. I'm okay with you talking about them. Two of my closest friends, it's okay if you have pictures, send me pictures. Because there's pictures sometimes they send me just out of the blue. Oh, look what I found. Yeah. And it's like Christmas, because you've never seen that picture before. So I let the closest people, let them off the hook. Let your friends off the hook. It's okay to talk about them.
And my parents do the same thing. They say, is it okay if I send pictures of their mum to the kids?
Yeah.
And now my kids are old enough to have a phone and they get those pictures, messages.
Yeah.
But they ask me, is it okay? And then is it okay if I mention this? What should I tell them? What should I not tell them? Is it okay? But even with my kids, I tell them how great their mum was.
Yeah.
I tell them everything about her, stuff that they would want to know one day.
Exactly.
So I try to share that information so they know and they never forget. And one day it'll be ingrained in them and they don't feel like they've missed anything because I'm telling them everything that they need to know and stuff that they would never, ever get to see or hear.
Right. They're relying on you for that, especially your daughter, right? Your daughter, how old was your daughter?
My daughter was one. And she was just coming out of hospital. So on her first birthday, her mum never came out of hospital. After giving birth, she was always in hospital.
Wow.
And it's a really tough position. You just don't know people how they react or how they want to react, or they don't know how to react because it's kind of that veil that we have in front of us. Yeah. That when you see odd things happening around the house and we can't believe that they're real, and that's me saying it because I'm saying I'm real and I can see physical things. Yeah. But when I see a balloon flying across the room and flying back, and then I hear music turning on, and it's not that the house being haunted, and it's not that crazy things was happening. It was just little subtle things were going on that made me be aware that there's more than what our physical body can see.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's the brain that keeps us controlled.
You know what? My thing is there's no way that you can take all of that like energy and earthbound love and everything and just have it go away. Your physical body goes away. Yes. But the energy's there. Yes. And if anybody, my son was he took me out of my comfort zone so many times. He was like, I always say the planet got so boring for him. He just went to a different place. He just said, I'm doing something else. He was very much the explorer and high energy. And so if anybody's going to come contact me, it's going to be him. That's right. And there has been so many things. And shortly after, so in 2015, my son dies. And then 2017, my parents die 7 months apart from each other. And in that, I was more prepared. Yeah. And it was different, And I do honor them. And my thing is I'll plant a rose whenever we lose somebody or somebody passes. Dan's dad, anybody we lose, I plant a rose for. And so we'll see their rose will pop up on their birthday, or their rose will pop up on Mother's Day. And you'll say, that's just, you can say, oh, that's crazy, or I don't believe that's a coincidence. But you know what, if you look at it like it's not, it's a beautiful thing, and it helps you so much. Like, the death has occurred, but the relationship is still there. Yes. It's just different. And so I just hope that if anybody's struggling, just get up and fake it. Yeah. If you got to. I remember going into my job and crying in the bathroom because I'm thinking, I can't hang. Yeah. I want to go home, and I want to go and lay in my bed and not get up. But you just fake it. Just even if you have to, tape your smile, and then it just becomes, you just get, and the more you talk to people, the more you connect, and you realize there's really good people out there, and there's people that have gone through similar stories. So backing up a little bit, let's talk about the day that you came into my office.
Yeah.
So let's go back to that.
So So it was interesting that when I had come, and obviously our mutual friend was late, and we were walking around. So it was that feeling of saying something to you, and I said, "Do you know who this person is?" And I think that's where it began.
Yeah.
And I see your face saying, like, looking at me, like, "Who is this crazy guy who's just walking into the office?"
Yeah. Yeah.
and I said that, just sorry for the way you saw him.
Yeah.
And that was what kept pounding in my head, like, you're sorry for the way you saw him. And then you had a thing on your neck.
Yes, the thumbprint.
Yeah, the thumbprint. That's right. It was the thumbprint.
Yeah.
And that was really where our friendship had began.
Yeah.
And it really, for me, was like magical that you were receptive to what I was saying.
Oh, it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And because the thing was, it wasn't just you telling me, there was a physical presence there. And so, I mean, it was, I remember I kept saying, don't go, because you were still there working, but I was like, don't go anywhere because I need to be your friend. Like, we need to be friends because this guy is the conduit. You know, he just, channeled something that was, like I immediately went, because I had gone to I had gone to a medium, a very good medium before, but this was beyond the medium. Yeah. This was like, he's physically here.
It was magical. It was a magical moment. And I remember that I was crying and you were crying. We were both crying there, holding each other, I think.
And then you had told me, about what had happened. Yes. And I thought, this is, I'm supposed to connect with you, and you're going to help me on this journey because I need some help. Yeah. I mean, I was still struggling. You still struggle.
Yeah, you do.
And I was thankful. It was almost like your wife's told Matt, go get your mom, she needs some help or whatever. But if you just open your mind up just a little bit, because there's some people that if they're, especially religious people that have grown up strict religious, they'll think, oh no, that's the devil's work. Oh, I don't get my cards read. I don't do anything like that. You don't have to. If you just open up to the signs. Yes. Butterflies are a big thing. But just try to, and don't push yourself.
It's open mind, right?
Yeah, just keep an open mind, but don't, there's no limit on like, when do I get rid of his clothes? Yeah. Did you go through that where you have to, yes. I'm thinking, oh gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? There's no limit. And when you're ready, you'll do it. Yeah. But do it, you can do it to where it's not horrible, Yeah. I mean, it's like this, right? That's the grief process. It's like this. But just don't stay down here,
Try to enjoy the things that you've seen and remember those great moments and the great things and celebrate. And you said it best, you have to celebrate them. You celebrate the ones that we loved.
Yeah. And they had a journey here. Yeah. And they had a purpose. And so do you. Yes. And the thing is too is your life didn't stop. Yeah. And your family needs you. Yes. Your kids need you. Your spouse needs you. Whoever it is, you have to continue on. And so that's what gives us strength. I'm sure your kids gave you strength.
You said fake it, in the beginning, because I was alone here in the US and my family was in England and I never saw anybody. So I'm sitting in this big house. It was like a little mini mansion. I'm sitting there by myself with me and the two kids in one room.
Right.
And I remember almost all the nights when I would tuck my 1-year-old, my 2-year-old in, and I'm crying to my 2-year-old and he's rubbing my head, don't cry, daddy, don't cry, daddy. And he's saying that to me. And I literally went down that day and I go, I'll never, ever cry again because he needs me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's where your strength came from.
That's exactly right.
Even if you wanted to curl up into a ball, you couldn't because those children needed you. So I think finding purpose, and it doesn't have to be something, if you don't have children, even if it's just a plant on the windowsill, get up, get dressed, and water the plant. That's right. If just take baby steps. And one of the things too is if you can't sleep, go see a doctor. I'm not saying drown yourself in sleeping pills, but if you can't sleep, go take, have the doctor give you something to sleep because you need to be
focused. Okay,
and like focused mind. Yes. And that'll help you on your day too. Because I could see how you could spiral really easy And we've had this conversation too, where you could say to yourself, and I have, you know what, I could just throw a bunch of beers back and do whatever I want. Nobody could blame me for it because I've lost a child. I could just completely go off the rails right now. I have a free pass.
Yes.
Right?
And that actually exactly what we were speaking about the other day, which was, I remember that there was all these medicines in the cabinet, and it was Vicodins and oxycodone and this and that and whatever the stuff was. And I go, well, who's going to blame me if I screw myself up? No one can blame me, but maybe it's going to make me feel better. But no, I chose to be good, and I want to be better, and I want to give love to people, and I want to keep everybody happy, and I want to be a better person from this.
Exactly.
And I think that's also with you, you know, I think that you're a very loving person. You're very funny. I mean, me and you have great conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that it changes you to who you are today.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. You're so much more connected.
Yes.
Connected. And the thing is too, is people, ask my husband, I talk to everybody.
Yes.
He'll say, I talk to people in the grocery store. But you know what, people, that's what we want.
Yeah.
We want connection. And so I'm more in tune, I feel like, with people, and more empathetic. And I'm a little easier, I go a little easier on myself, you know. Self-care is something we don't always do. And so I go a little easier on myself. I buy the shoes if I want the shoes, buy them. You know, even if you're under quarantine and you can't wear them anywhere, wear them in the kitchen.
Wear them in the garden while you're watering the plant.
Exactly. But anybody who's struggling, it's doable. You can do it. You can get out and make it where you honor them.
Yeah. And don't feel guilty.
And the guilt, that's another series of
problem. Because you feel guilty doing anything, because you say, well, why should I, is it okay for me to be happy?
Yeah.
You feel guilty. Should I be happy? Because I shouldn't be, because something just major happened to me. Now, there's confusion there too.
Absolutely. The first time I remember doing one of those belly rolls where you throw your head back and you're laughing so hard, I remember catching myself going, how in the heck could you be laughing right now? How dare you? How could you be laughing? I mean, that's how far the guilt goes, where you say, how could you be laughing? Your son is dead.
Yes.
How dare you? So you do go through every single emotion. Like when I say being split open and every nerve ending exposed, it's the guilt. What could I have done more? Yes. What did I do wrong? You know, you go through, and that's why I think once you get past it, you're not past it. You get through it. You don't get over it, right? Yes. But once you get to where you're okay, where you feel like, you know, I'm okay now, it makes you so much more aware of like people, and it opens up like a whole nother realm of connection with people.
So how do you keep yourself, what do you do to keep yourself occupied nowadays? Like how does life go on? What do you enjoy?
I like shopping a lot, but I also enjoy my grandchildren. My husband, we do a lot of stuff. We're kind of homebodies, so we like to do stuff around the house. So I like to be in the yard. We live in a place where we have a lot of wildlife, and so I spend a lot of time, like there's a lot of birds near me. I think you picked up on that one time.
Oh yeah, I was wondering. I thought you were in a
aviary.
Yes.
He's like, "Are you living in a place where there's birds?" But we're supportive of each other. My husband was like a rock for me during this time, and let me. You know, sometimes you just need to throw it up. You know, just emotionally, just throw up all over someone, the negative, and he let me do that.
So Dan takes a lot then.
Yeah, he's up for a Purple Heart right now. But you know, let your friends in, because your friends don't know what to say to you. Yeah. I have some friends that just stayed away, and it's not because they don't like you anymore. They just don't know what to say, or they're afraid. They kind of tiptoe around you. And so I let the other ones off the hook, you know, the real close friends, and it's worked. You know, talk about them. Yeah. But my journey is it could be totally different for someone else.
Yes.
And I'm not downplaying the death of a child at all. I'm just saying that it's survivable, it's doable. You can get through it.
I found that too. A lot of people stayed away from me, didn't know how to react to me, and literally I didn't see people. I think people stopped inviting me places. It became very awkward to talk to me.
Yeah.
And I was literally sitting there for 2 years, and I couldn't go out anyway because I had to put babies to bed at 8:30, 8 o'clock at night. I was stuck in a house.
Right.
But I enjoy every moment. I enjoy air. I enjoy the freedom that we have. And I look at the world and I say how much of a beautiful place it is, even though we have trouble in it.
Yes.
Like right now.
Yes.
But it is a beautiful place. And we just got to enjoy every moment and just be happy. And it continues.
You can't sweat the small stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Because, when you think about it, something that's like that's happened to you or something that's happened to me, you think to yourself, that's the worst possible thing that could ever happen to anyone. It goes against everything, right? Yeah. But you got it, you got through it. And then in a way, and if I could change it, I would go back to how it was. But it's very freeing because everything else seems very small in comparison. So things that, I don't know, you just look at things differently, right? Like you handle things. Not that I don't freak out. I mean, I still freak out if I get a flat tire or something like that. You still have your regular personalities. But it is freeing in a sense that there's not a whole lot that you can't take on, right? And it's trauma. Yep. It's trauma. You have to treat it like trauma and just go easy on yourself. Yep. It's a process. But I like to connect with people. That's my main thing now. Yeah. And I can kind of see when somebody's struggling, and I'll reach out. Whereas before I'd be more hesitant. Yeah. I'll reach out more.
Yeah, and it makes you more caring, right? You become a more caring person. You're looking at people differently. You want to be helpful. Small things. I broke a nail is not as important as much as it sucks.
Yeah. Is he looking at me now?
But it really does. It really does change your perception. It changes your perception of everything.
Yes, it does. And my faith in God too. I mean, I have a strong faith in God, and there's some people that get really angry with God when this happens. And to me, my son, I watched him suffer with a lot. And so to me, my God said, no more suffering. It's time to come home. Yeah. So I was never angry with God. I had an old man that I used to work with that was very wise. And he said to me when I was going through, before this happened, he said, Julie, God's going to sort it out. It might not be to your liking, but it will get sorted. And it was, at the time, I just went, oh yeah, whatever. But I think back and I go, that was so profound, because he did. He sorted it out. But, and just knowing that the signs are there, that he's there with us, and that he's still with us, but that needed to happen so that he could be free. Yes. Because what would his life be if he stayed with us? Would we have watched him struggle another 20 years? How painful would that have been for us? Yes. Or with your wife, what kind of quality of life would she have had? Yeah.
And that, so it's funny because even while we thought she would get better, she says, well, I'm going to stop working. When I get better, I'm going to stop working, and we're going to go and do this, and we're going to move closer to our family in San Francisco. Yeah. I'm going to raise our kids like this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And we had all these plans that we were already making. Yeah. And obviously it didn't happen, but it really allowed me, I wish things didn't happen the way they did, but I really love being the parent I am to my kids now, of the relationship we have now, which is very different than what I think it would have been, because maybe I wouldn't have appreciated it as much.
Right. In other words, you would have been running the business or doing whatever.
And I would just ignored everyone, just continue doing what I was doing, be the boss and make money and do this, and that was important. But now that's not the important. It's my kids that are important.
Right. So you're a different person altogether as a result of that.
Not the same guy.
And then sometimes I think is that our purpose, like, is that how your journey, was it supposed to go like that? I mean, I know that they say everybody has an exit point.
Yeah.
So his exit point, that was his exit point, you know, that's their journey.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's, if you just, I know some people will think, oh, this is crazy talk, or you're just talking crazy. But if you just open up to it, it does help. It's so much more healing.
Yes.
And it's okay, it's still okay to have a bad day, but if you just open it up, and the thing is too, is the happier you are, the higher the vibration, and the more signs you get.
That's exactly right.
Because they want you. They're up here, right? Like their vibration's really high. You would know this because you meditate. Your vibration's so high that you're able to connect better, right? And so the happier you are, the more signs you get. And I will sit down and just have a conversation with him in my head. And I'm thinking, I can't tell anybody this because they're going to think I'm absolutely nuts, you know. But I have a conversation, and thoughts will pop into my head. And when I went and saw the medium, she goes, "That's exactly what I do."
That's exactly how it works.
That's exactly what I do.
Exactly how it works.
So I do feel that I have that connection with him. Yeah. You know, it's just not a physical connection anymore, but it's energy, and it's love, and it's there.
Yes.
You know, and it keeps me going for sure.
Julie, I want to thank you very much for sharing this with us. I know it was very hard, and it actually made me nervous.
I'm sorry if I talked your ear off.
No, I thank you very much for sharing, and I think that
thank you for sharing.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.